What is going on YouTube? This is Jim back with another video here to give you guys my initial thoughts on the PlayStation Pulse 3D headphones. I obviously don't have a PlayStation 5 yet, so I cannot test the 3D audio portion of these, the Tempest 3D that Sony has been hyping up. That's the whole reason I got these headphones. I want to be very, very clear. I've done numerous videos on my channel. You can go back in the history. I'll also post the link in the description below. If you're curious to hear my thoughts on the conversion of getting some of your more popular Astro headsets to work on the Xbox Series S/X and the PlayStation 5, thanks to the fact that they have decided to remove the optical port, which throws a lot of us in a tizzy. I picked these up. They're $100 US. You can pretty much get them anywhere. Target finally was gracious enough to honor my pre-order. I think I was the last person on the planet to get these, despite the fact I ordered them way before a lot of my friends, but I'm not jaded. I'm happy because I got them. And I want to talk to you guys about some things I noticed in terms of some build quality, and then talk a little bit about the audio quality, at least the stuff that I can test now using my PlayStation 4s, plural. I'll talk about why in a minute. And also some of the gameplay settings that I found and just some overall general impressions. Now, things may change, obviously, when the PlayStation 5 comes out. When we get Tempest 3D audio, it may radically change my opinion of these. But I knew going into it that these headphones were on the cheaper side. I knew that even though $100 US doesn't necessarily seem like it's pocket change, the truth is when you're talking about performance headphones, you're talking about expensive pieces of technology, particularly like my Sennheiser Game 1s, $300. My tried and true Astro A40s were $150, an additional $100 for the MixAmp, and so on and so forth. These things are not cheap, guys. If you want high quality sound, you're gonna pay through the nose for it. So $100 honestly is on the lower tier in terms of what a performance headphone would cost. The question is, how did these fare? Well, I wasn't really expecting a whole hell of a lot, to be honest with you. But I wanna talk about the build quality first, and then we'll talk about some of the other problems and issues, I use that word intentionally, on what I've noticed with these so far. First and foremost, they are sexy, okay? They are very sleek. They look like they're something out of the future. They have a really nice, solid piece of white matte plastic. These really cool black plastic, just it really pops, and it's got a really distinct look to it. I love the two-tone look of it. The actual cups themselves, they are the spongy rubber that you would see in a lot of other headphones. This makes them more of a closed headphone. Closed headphones are not my personal preference. I prefer open headphones. What are open headphones, in case you're wondering? Well, they leak the sound a lot more, but it lets your ear breathe a little more. Like my Astros, for example, these are actual cloth. Cloth, obviously not as noise resistant as plastic, so the sound kind of bleeds out a little more. It lets your ear breathe a little more. It's got a little different sound profile to it. I'm not knocking these. I knew they were closed when I got them, so I'm not upset. Additionally, the problem though is this plastic tends to fall apart over time. It will slowly start to fray and decompose as your hair oil or is just wear and tear of sliding in and off your ears, particularly the fact that I am a glassed gentleman. You're definitely gonna notice some distinct lines forming. If you look very closely, and I know you guys have, I mean, who hasn't looked closely at my Astros? You'll notice that the form here, actually, let me show you from this side here. You can see it's a little thinner at the top and the bottom. That's because obviously it rests on my round head, my fat round head. And it's also got a little bit of a divot here. That's from my glasses. So these things are gonna happen. Everybody's ear form is different. Everybody's head shape is different. Obviously, the fact that I have way too much hair on my head and the fact that I have glasses is going to make the headphones fit differently for me than for you. However, we can still agree that this plastic is probably not the best solution going forward. I don't expect a significant amount of shelf life in the way that, for example, my previous pair of Sennheisers lasted me 10 years. That was a performance pair of headphones. I don't expect these to last 10 years. I expect you're going to see this plastic start to wear off probably in a year or so, depending on how aggressively you wear them, if you're washing your hands, if you're not a dirty heathen, all that wonderful stuff. And it's going to depend, again, on your mileage will vary. However, it's something worth noting. The other big problem I have with these headphones is there's no adjustment. Now, they thankfully fit my beautiful round head pretty well. And you can see here, if you look, you have a nice smooth curve, which means that the ear cups are square against my ear. If they're tighter, if this band went out further, the ear cups may wear more like this. That wouldn't be a nice tight fit. If they were too tight, the ear cups would be like this. You would see this headband curl more, almost, and they'd almost start to, obviously they can't touch, they're not going through my head, but they would wrap more around my head and they would open up. The problem with not being able to adjust this height is it's going to be dependent. Now, my wife put these on, and they actually sat, because she's got a smaller head. I think everybody's got a smaller head than me. She sat, and instead of her against her ear like this, they were more like this. There was a lot more leaking on the top and sound-wise. So that will be a different sound profile. Maybe it works for her, maybe it doesn't. Time will tell. But it's worth noting that these are not adjustable. They do have a plastic band that is located here on the top that has some flex to it and a slight, ever so slight amount. If you watch right over here as I pull up, you'll see it has a slight amount of wiggle and pull to it. Obviously, there's an elastic piece that bends, but that is going to be what forms the seal on your head to kind of hold them in place. So be aware of that. In terms of controls and settings, there's everything I would expect to see on headphones. You have a power on off button, you have a microphone mute button, you have a monitor, which most people leave off, but if you want to hear yourself back, you can with the monitor to hear how you sound. This may be more important if you're streaming, although I suspect if you're streaming, you're probably going to be using a nice external microphone, something along the lines of like a Blue Yeti, for example. I don't know how many streamers are going to stream using headphones, but I could be wrong. And also, it's got a distinct volume setting here for chat and game volume, so you can toggle between the two if you want to hear more game or more chat. And then also, one of the things that they did that I really appreciate is they included a 3.5 millimeter port on here. So if your battery dies in the middle of a great game session, you can plug these in and they will still work, thankfully. Just obviously the wiring portion is gone, which is nice. There's a lot of wireless headphones that die. They don't have any way to keep the party going. Now, I prefer wired in that sense. I have the cord disconnected. These are definitely wired headphones. Wired headphones are very nice because they never die. And there's something to be said for that. But I wanted a pair of wireless to try. So I did what I call the kiss test. It doesn't mean I actually smooched on my headphones. The kiss test is I have two PlayStations plugged in behind me, and I played Kiss. Yes, the band Kiss, one of my favorite bands. And I play the exact same song on YouTube at the exact same time. And I put one ear up, I take my headphones and I put them up to my ear like this, and I put the other ones into my ear like this, and I listen. And I listen for different things. I listen for more bass, I listen for more treble, I listen for distortion, I would say. Another popular song that I prefer to listen to, not just the band Kiss, I love Kiss, I'll just listen to them anyway. 9 Inch Nails, Hurt. Very, very complex song. I challenge you to go listen to that song on what I would consider standard tech. Go listen to it on your iPhone. Go listen to it on a pair of basic computer speakers. Then play it back with a performance pair of headphones. And you'll hear how many different layers Trent Reznor put in that song. There are so many little distinct crackles and hisses and pops that are really bled out on a lot of regular headphones that certain high performance headphones pick up. The Astros picked them up without problem. These guys didn't fare as well. So there's definitely something to be said about that. Now, audio quality in general is really hard to kind of quantify. When you talk about picture quality, for example, you can talk about pixel count. You could talk about lumens. You could talk about brightness. You could talk about, well, that is brightness, but there are quantifiable things. When you talk about headphones, yes, you can measure decibel output. You could say, oh, well, these are louder, these are quieter. You can look at a graph and kind of get a rough idea of where the sound profile is going to fit, whether it's more high or low. But you are going to miss out significantly on just that human element, not only of what you like to listen to, but different types of headphones pick up different types of music differently. For example, Beats headphones typically have more bass to them. Well, if you listen to a lot of music that has a heavy bass tone to it, you're going to really appreciate that. But if you listen to something that doesn't have as much bass, Beat headphones are going to put more bass on there than you're used to, and the sound may sound muddy. That's what they like, muddy sound. I don't know what muddy sounds like is, but you get my point. So it's hard for me to critique on that sense, but I can tell you guys, listening to the exact same song at the exact same time with two different things plugged in, I can distinctly tell the difference, and I prefer, personally, the sound of the Astros. This is prior to the MixAmp. This is just the standard headphone itself. However, I think these aren't bad. They sounded okay. I played Modern Warfare, and I wanted to hear how great I could hear sound effects. One of the things that I have done on my Astro A40 with MixAmp is I have adjusted the EQ settings to really amplify sound effects, particularly with footsteps. Now, that gives me a significant competitive advantage because I can hear you a mile away. And when I take out the MixAmp and I just use these wired into the bottom of my DualShock 4 controller, obviously I can't hear the sounds very well anymore. That would make a lot of sense because the driver piece, that DAC, the digital analog converter, the MixAmp, which is taking all that sound, putting sweet Dolby music around it, wrapping it up in a nice wrapper and pushing it out to my headphones, that piece is disconnected. So it would make logical sense that the sound profile is going to be diminished. However, I will say I did not hear a difference in footstep sounds between the A40s and the Pulse 3D headphones. They were definitely on par with each other. So I have to say that in terms of game performance, not just footsteps, I also played Tony Hawk and listened to some of that beautiful soundtrack. I love it so much. It's my game of the year. It sounded good. It didn't sound bad. It sounded good on both headphones. So Mike, what's the consensus then? What do I think? Well, I like them, but I don't like them. I'm not a big fan of the build quality. I'm not a big fan of the lack of adjustment in height. I know from a fact, as an adult man who's had many, many headphones, this plastic is going to shred. These will not be forever headphones. I think I'll probably get a year or two out of these, hopefully by then. Astro or Steel Series or Razer put together a more robust solution for PlayStation 5 consoles, and I will definitely jump ship at that point. However, I think in the interim, we'll have to see what the Tempest 3D is. I will do an updated video if it warrants one to talk about some of the sound profiles to see if it's even worth it. I will say this, if the Tempest 3D turns out to be a bust, if it turns out that the 3D audio was a gimmick and it doesn't really sound as great as people thought it did, I probably will revert back to these with my MixAmp. I probably will, just because they're old, tried and true. I like the quality, I like the build quality, and I think they sound really, really good. However, I bought these, they're mine now. I might as well use them for something. So I do appreciate the freedom of being wireless. That's something I haven't really dealt with before. Not that I really walk around when I'm playing games, but it's nice to not have a cord draped down or behind my head, behind the couch to, get everything nice and wired up. So we'll have to see. I guess the Tempest is going to be the ultimate, determination on this. But I wanted to give some initial impressions, kind of talk through some of the things I liked, some of the things I didn't like, and I want to hear from you guys. I know this model, I should say this chassis, is based largely on existing PlayStation headphones, the gold and the platinum headphones that have been around for quite a while. They haven't done a whole heck of a lot in terms of the overall look. Yeah, they cleaned up the aesthetics a little bit and made it a little smoother and sleeker, but this base style has been around, so it's clearly a tried and true, at least design for Sony. But I want to hear from you guys. Tell me if they're, are they great or are they not? Am I missing something here? That remains to be seen. I want to hear from you guys, so leave a comment below. I really appreciate the interaction with some of my other videos, and I try to respond to as many comments as I possibly can. So with that, I'm closing this one out. I'm gonna get back to some Call of Duty and maybe a little bit more Kiss, because I was made for loving you, baby. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.